Hello, friends. So, you have this interview coming up. You didn't prepare in advance, or maybe it's a last minute call that you got from the recruiter saying that the hiring manager is only available this week or tomorrow. Are you ready to come and give an interview? You don't have a choice. You really want this job. So, what you do, you say yes. But what do you do with regards to preparation? Don't worry, I have you covered in this video. I will take you through the key elements that you need to prepare and work on with regards to your last minute job interview. Number one is research. Now, research has two parts. One, you need to research the company. Go on their website, check the About Us page with regards to their history, just read through it, understand where they come from, then read through what they do, their product and services, and then more importantly, or most importantly, is know about their values or about their principles that they lay down. So, for instance, I work for Lego, and Lego's principles are all about bravery, about focus, and curiosity. Now, once you know these principles, could be three, could be five, could be 10, depending on which company you're applying for. For P&G, I think there were five when I used to work for P&G. For Amazon, there are around 14. So, get yourself familiar with these principles because the hiring manager will be judging you or evaluating you on these principles. Apart from the job description, they will be evaluating you on these principles. And the reason they evaluate you on these principles is because they will hire you and you won't be an individual working alone. You will be working in a team setting. So they want to know if you are someone who can come gel with the team, bond and collaborate and work as a cohesive unit. They are not hiring you just as a single unit. They are hiring you as a brick who can come and fit in the wall and can add value. And that is only possible if you have the same values and principles as the rest of the organization. So this is one part of the research. The second part of the research is researching on the job description, which is read through the job description and see what are the key elements with regards to the job itself that that particular hiring manager would be looking for or this particular role is looking for. They must have been called out in the job description itself, whether they're looking for someone who's a people leader, who will lead a team, or someone who will come and simplify things, or someone who will drive action. So these are the few things that you may see in the job description. Now, these are the soft skills I called out. There could also be hard skills with regard to someone knowing, let's say, a particular system, Power BI, someone knowing SAP, or someone knowing skill related to, let's say, accounting, or some other pertinent hard skill which is required for that particular job. So read through the job description so you know that what skills, either soft and hard, the company is looking for, and ideally highlight them. So by this time, what you should be knowing is what are the core values of the company, mark them down, take a note of them, write them in bullets. And second, what are the key requirements like soft skills and the hard skills as per the job description, write them down as well. This information is your asset. These two lists that you've created is your asset with regards to your preparation. Now, second, we move into preparing from your own experience. Now, one call out before we move further. In case you find any value from this video, I have to ask for you. One, press the like button as this keeps me motivated. Second, press the subscribe button with the bell icon so you get notified as soon as I put a new content on this channel. On this channel, I post content pertaining to personal finance and career success for early and mid-career professionals. Other than that, in case you want me to continue making unbiased content like this, you can support me on patreon.com. I will leave the link to my Patreon page in the description of this video. So here we talk about preparing your examples. What I mean by preparing your examples is list down top 5 or 8 examples that you have from your work history, or if you've not worked a lot, then from your university or college or some other non-professional background that you've had, like your key achievements, list them down. Because these are the key achievements that you want to project or want to call out in the interview. So make sure you write them down as key bullets. Now what you need to do is you need to make sure that these achievements that you've listed can answer or can hit on these values or these skills that are being required by the job description by the company. So for instance, if the company is asking for a leadership value or a leadership principle, you should have an example for leadership and then match and map each of the example with those principles, with those skills. For instance, the company is looking for a skill which is you've led a team and you've developed people. So look for one of those achievements that you've had in past where you managed a team, or you were able to motivate a team, or you were able to enable a team to achieve some success, and then match and map them. Now, there might be certain principles or certain requirements in the job description or of the company for which you may not have a direct example. Now, you may have an example, but it's not your top example. So now think of any element which is left, which cannot be mapped to a particular example, and think of an extra example from your past in order to address that particular requirement. What you're essentially doing here is you're making sure that for every requirement of the job, you have something to share from your past experience, because what you want to tell the interviewer is that you've delivered this particular requirement, or you've exhibited this particular skill in past, and since you've done it in past, you can do it again. So you just need to assure them. And how do you assure them? Is by giving an example from the past that you've done it before, and you know the process of redoing it or replicating it again in any job setting. Now here, one smart tip. Make sure you put all this information down in bullet format on a piece of paper and keep it in front of you when you're delivering an online interview. No one will be able to see this page. This is kind of a cheat sheet that you have in front of you in order for you to refer in case you forget anything. Because remember, the core purpose of having this gray matter here is not to memorize. It is to process information. It is not to memorize any information in your memory, rather to make use of this brain to process. So during the interview, the last thing you want is that you're preparing to memorize stuff. You should be preparing to process stuff so you can ace the delivery in the interview. Anything that you need to remember should be on a piece of paper in front of you. So much so, even you can call it out to the interviewer saying that you have your resume in front of you and you're just referring to the resume, checking if you've missed anything or any example that you can pick from your resume that you can share. So let's say they ask you a leadership example and you didn't memorize all your examples because you wanted to keep your brain power for processing in the interview as against memorizing. So what you can do is you can say, let me think about it, or let me look at my resume and pick a good example. And then you can look down and say, oh, I have a good example. You can look down and down you have your resume, or you have those notes in front of you from which you can pick a good example and share that example. Now, one call out and thanks to the sponsors of this video, which is Kindle by Amazon. Since the day I started using Kindle, I've never touched a physical book. The ease of storing so many books and traveling with those books in a digital format is just amazing. The ease of buying a book on a click is amazing. And also, those books that I buy are at a cheaper rate versus the physical books. Plus, I don't end up damaging the environment so much because I'm not using physical books. It's just the digital part of the books that I'm making use of. In case you're interested in getting your own Kindle or upgrading your Kindle, you can do that using the link that I will leave in the description of this video. Thank you, and let's start rolling back into the video. Now, tip number 2 is to make sure that you present your best example first in the interview. It is better if you start the interview at a great footing. You start the interview with a great introduction, and I'll talk about the introduction as well. Second, you start with your top or best example, your highest achievement. So you build the interview to the high, and so much so that the interviewer is just in love with you, they're enjoying it. To an extent that even later towards the interview, if you have like average example, it really doesn't matter because you really engage the interviewer. He or she is happy, he or she is engaged, they're listening to you. They've already made their decision in their mind that they want to move you to the next process or even want to hire you just because you started with the top example. Now imagine, on the other hand, you start with your weak example first. When you start with your weak or average example first, you'll have less engagement from the interviewer. So interviewer will be deaf, and so much so that even if towards the later half of the interview, you start sharing your best example, their attention span has already reduced. They are less focused on you. They are less interested now because you started with weak examples. And so much so that they might even be stuck on those weak or average example and maybe thinking, this wasn't great, this wasn't good enough. And they have already formed an impression about you. And by the time you move towards your best examples, it is very difficult to change that impression now. So always start with your best examples first and then go towards the average examples. Now understand, the example also depends on the question. However, you do have some flexibility. There are a lot of examples that you can share from your history, which can address a simplification question, which can address a leadership question, which can address a question around idea generation, and so on and so forth. All you need to do is tweak that particular example and use it to address that particular pillar that they are asking. Now imagine you are not able to find strong elements from the company's website with regards to their principles or from job description on soft skills and hard skills required. It's just poorly written website or poorly written job description. This would be very rare, but in case it happens, remember that you need to have an example around leadership, around being result oriented, around developing a new idea, around being organized, around being a collaborator, so how do you collaborate, and around being a problem solver. So you should have one example for each of these elements. Now only use these elements if you can't find anything on company's website or on the job description. And in that case, these are kind of universal skills that any hiring manager would be looking for. So make sure you have an example for each one of them. Now next, you should be preparing for some unexpected questions. One could be around your resume. So make sure you read your resume thoroughly, and there is nothing on your resume which comes as a surprise to you. So make sure you understand everything that is there, because there might be a question where just the interviewer has read your resume and they go about wanting to know more on something that you've written on your resume and want you to explain. So make sure everything that is on your resume is something that you can talk and you've read it once, so you're kind of prepared to take any question around that. Next here is to prepare for typical interview questions. What I mean by typical interview questions is, for example, tell me about yourself. This is a question that you may get asked around 99% of the time in an interview, because you will need to kind of introduce yourself as you start the interview. So make sure you have a strong answer for this. This is the start of the interview. Make sure you start at a great footing. I have made a special video for just this particular question where I help explain how you can ace it. I have very special hacks that I share in that video, so please check it out. Also note that this is one question which is one of the most underprepared questions. And secondly, even the interviewer is not expecting something very high or very flashy or surprising from you in this question. So if you can surprise them in this question, which is towards the start of the interview, you will be acing the interview. Other common questions would be around self-awareness with regards to what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. I have also made special video on how do you talk about your strengths, what are your strengths and how do you tackle that question. You can check out that video here using the link above. And secondly, I have made another video where I talk about how you can go about answering a question around what are your weaknesses. You can check out that video here. Now with regards to the question on weakness, make sure you don't call out something as a weakness in yourself, which is a core requirement for that job. Again, for more details, check out the video for which I will leave the link above. Another question could be around why do you want to work for us? For this, you can use the research that you did in tip 1, where you researched about the company, and you can kind of bake that research in your answer. You can call out how you like their culture because you've read about their culture or their mission or about their product or the offerings that they have that kind of resonates with you and you think you're a right fit, and hence you are inspired by their ethic and want to join this particular company. Also, you can even talk about the role itself, the research that you did with regards to the role, that you really like the role and it's something that you've done before in different capacity, and this would be in a different way. So you will be learning a few things and you can also add value because you've done similar things in the past. However, this is kind of doing the same thing but slightly in a different way. It could be a different industry, could be different products, and so on and so forth. So you will be adding value and you will be learning as well, and hence this is a role which really inspires you, given you will be able to add value and will be able to grow as well. I have also a special video made on this with regards to how you should go about answering this question, so you can check out this video. I will leave the link here above. Last but not the least is the reverse interview questions. Very important. Similar to tell me about yourself, where the interviewer is not really grading you or expecting anything with regards to reverse interview questions. They have, for that matter, assumed that the interview is over. Rather, most of the time you'll find the interviewer taking a seat back and saying, okay, now it's time for you to ask me questions. And it's kind of the tables are turned. And they stop grading you because they are expecting you to ask them something about the culture of the company or about the product or something like that. And they don't expect to grade that question. However, if you have prepared for this particular part of the interview, you can really surprise them because you came prepared with an intention to impress them. And in the interview or part of the interview where they're not grading you, their guards are down, and you go and surprise and impress them, this will be a huge home run. So I have a special video made on this as well. Check out that video. I'll be leaving the link for that video here above. Now the tips that will follow are about winning the mental challenge and the image game. Up till now, all the tips that I shared were around preparation of how you answer a particular question and what are the answers that you give, what are the questions you expect, and so on and so forth. What I will talk about now, or the tips that I will share, is about how you win the mental challenge or the image game. Now, tip number 1 is to overdress. This has 2 benefits. 1, there is no harm in overdressing, but there is harm in underdressing. So you rather not take the risk and overdress, because if you underdress, you will damage your equity. Second is, when you overdress, you feel good about yourself. It's just that you look good, you feel good about yourself. There is more confidence that will be exposed just by you looking good. So by me saying overdress, I also mean that you look good, and when you look good, there is more confidence that you will be projecting. So this is one mental challenge or mental game or image game that you can win just by dressing well. Second is to make sure you speak slowly. There may be an instance where just because you're hyper, you have an adrenaline rush, you speak very fast and you're not clear. Make sure you tell yourself going in the interview that I will speak slowly. I need to slow down and I need to be very clear and also crisp. Like, don't go on different tangents. I need to be very clear, very crisp, and I need to speak slow. And it is only when you speak slow, you can also check yourself whether you're doing something wrong, saying something wrong, and always course correct. But if you're speaking faster than you can think, then it is very difficult for you to course correct. So you have to tell yourself going in the interview, before you step in, take deep breaths, slow down your heart rate, slow down or calm down your nerves, and then tell yourself that I will need to deliver, or I need to deliver a slow delivery. I need to talk slowly and calmly. Other ways to project confidence are to smile, maintain an eye contact, have a straight body language. I have a separate video made on how you go about projecting the confidence in the interview. I will leave the link to that video here above, so check it out as well. Lastly, when you're done, send a follow-up or a thank you note. 1, it shows your passion, and 2nd, it shows your gratitude. So make sure you do that. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully this video was helpful for you to now be able to know how you should go about preparing at the last minute for an important interview. In case you like this video, I'm sure you'll also like a video where I talk about how you should go about answering a question around failure. So check out that video here. Other than that, I have another video where I share special tips with regards to how you should go about setting up the interview or the interview setup process. Some secrets, some hacks there as well. Check out that video here. Thank you.